Okay, so we will start the Fortinet. Okay, actually Fortinet is not firewall. Fortinet is a company name, right? Fortinet. So Fortinet has many products, as you know. So Fortinet has firewall, has switch, etc. So many more devices. I will explain later. So today is your bootcamp. So as for example, so Fortinet, we have the FortiGate. FortiGate is firewall, right? FortiGate is firewall. We have FortiSwitch, we have FortiManager. So we have different devices. Okay, so Fortinet is not a firewall. Fortinet is a company. Actually, we will learn for FortiGate. FortiGate Firewall. Okay, so let me discuss about what are the certification of FortiGate. So similar to Cisco CCNA, CCNP, CCIE, so we have multiple track also in FortiGate. Okay, so FortiGate basically we have 3 certification: FCA, FCPE, and FCSS. Okay, FCSS, FCA FortiGate certified associate. Actually, NSC, NSC1, NSC2, NSC3. These are very basic level. These are very basic level. So these are the FCA actually. So FCA we don't record actually. We will move for FCP and FCSS. So FCA, FCP, we have 2 certification. One is FortiGate Administrator. Okay. Another one, we can have FortiManager or FortiAnalyzer, anyone. FortiAnalyzer. So to pass the exam, FCP, FortiGate Certified Professional, you need to pass the 2 exam. FortiGate Administrator, FortiGate Administrator. The FortiGate Administrator is basically NSC4, part of NSC4. And then another one, FortiManager or FortiAnalyzer. So these 2 are part of NSC5. So to pass the exam FCP, you need to pass 2 exams. NSC4 is called the core. And then you can pass FortiAnalyzer or FortiManager, anyone. Then you will be the FCP, FortiGate Certified Professional. Then FCSS, FortiGate Certified Security Specialist. Okay. So for this exam, you need to pass another 2 exams. One is Enterprise Firewall, and Fortinet SD1. Okay. So Enterprise, basically the NSC 6, not NSC 6, and SD1, maybe NSC 7. Okay, so if you pass these 2 exams, then you will be FCSS. So I will show you details in future. No problem. Okay, so actually, so these are the exams actually, FCP and FCSS. So we will only do FCP, FortiGate Certified Professional. Okay, and here is your syllabus contents, NSC4. So introduction to firewall, lab setup, enable engine, uninstall, setup, interface and zone config, dashboard, explanation, routing, network address translation, firewall policies, web filtering, application control, antivirus and file filtering. So these are our NSC4 syllabus. And for NSC5, we will learn FortiManager. So these are our contents for FortiManager. Okay, actually we will learn NSC4 and NSC5. So first we will go for NSC4, then NSC5. So now I will give you a brief discussion on all parts of NSC4. Okay. So first we can discuss about lab. So we'll do lab in Eve Engine. So for this lab, you need minimum 60 GB RAM. Okay, 60 GB RAM. That's enough. Okay. So I will give you the image as well as how to set up lab in Eve Engine. I will provide everything. I'll provide everything, but you need at least 16 GB of RAM. Okay, this is very important. But if you have 32 GB, then you can set a bigger lab. Okay, but minimum requirement 16 GB. So I will share Abe Engine image, FortiGate image, router image, switch image, everything I will share. Okay, so this is your lab setup. Then we will first our lecture will be on introduction to firewall. So in this section, I will describe what is firewall, how firewall is used. So what are the traditional firewall and today's next generation firewall. Okay. So what is firewall like? Something like, okay, so this is your inside network and this is your outside network. We can call it the outside network as public network, or this is actually the internet side. This is your LAN, local area network. Okay, this side is secured, mostly secured. This is untrusted. We can also call it the trusted. Okay. So in ASA firewall, we have learned a different mechanism. So we have ASA firewall, we have Palo Alto, we have Checkpoint, we have Cisco FTD firewall, firewall threat defense. Then we have the FortiGate firewall. Okay, there are different firewall, and different firewall has different rules, and they have different behavior, right? So ASA firewall basically works based on security level, but Palo Alto, Checkpoint, and Cisco FTD, they are zone-based firewall. Okay, they never work based on security level. Okay, so security level is what? So one side is 100 security level, and if another side is assigned to 0, then traffic will be passed from the higher to lower. Okay, so this is the traditional firewall. Okay, so this meeting will be shared, no problem. Okay, no problem. I will globally share today's class, no problem at all. So this is actually traditional ASA firewall. Okay, then comes to Palo Alto, Checkpoint, and Cisco Firewall Threat Defense. Cisco Firewall Threat Defense, they are called the zone-based firewall. So actually, what is firewall? Firewall is a system or group of system or group of system which can manage access, right? So if I permit it from inside to outside or outside to inside, this should be managed by the firewall. So I will explain everything on our real class. Okay. So where ASA is based on security level, where Palo Alto, Checkpoint, and Cisco FTD based on zone, but Fortinet not zone based. Okay, Fortinet is not zone based. So Fortinet works based on port based. How? Suppose this is the Fortinet or FortiGate firewall, and this is the interface or port. So on Fortinet, we find it as a port, not interface. So these are basically same port. Suppose this is port 1, this is port 2. So we will not assign this is a zone 1, zone 2, or this is inside zone, outside zone. No. So traffic will be classified or policy. Okay, how traffic goes from port 1 to port 2. So we can also say Palo Alto, FortiGate is a port based, not zone based, not based on security level. And by default, no traffic is initiated from port 1 to port 2 or another thing. Okay. Fortinet is like port based. And we can group port. Okay. So I will explain everything. No problem. But not today. I will explain everything on our real classes. Okay. So this is your firewall. So I will give brief description or description. What is firewall? Why firewall is used? What is traditional firewall? So traditional firewall is what? Suppose consider as a router. Okay, router. And the next generation firewall, NGFW. So what is the basic difference? The router can do net, right? Next generation firewall can also do net. Router can do routing. Next generation firewall also can do routing. We can create policy or access control list. Okay. This firewall, we can also configure SCL. But what is the difference between router and next generation firewall? Actually, next generation firewall has some extra feature. Okay. What are these? So these are like web filtering, application control, antivirus, firewall. Okay. So these are the extra activities of next generation firewall. Okay. Web filtering, application and control, antivirus, file filtering, malware. Okay. Malware filtering. So these are the tasks of next generation firewall, extra task. Okay. So I will explain everything, no problem, in our classes. And then routing. Okay, so introduction to firewall, then lab setup on AB engine, we will configure interface. So Fortinet is not zone based, actually we will call it the port based. And I will explain also the dashboard. Okay, so dashboard is a central monitoring from where we can monitor the full of our activities of the firewall. Okay, so dashboard is common for Palo Alto, common for firewall threat defense. It's also available on any other next generation firewall. Okay, so it's not fancy. It is common for all. So dashboard, from a dashboard we can the dashboard will give you the central and the overall performance, overall configuration level, etc. and many more things. Okay, suppose from the dashboard you can see the high availability feature. You can see the interfaces are up or down. You can see the RAM utilization. You can see the memory, RAM or memory. You can see the CPU utilization. Okay, and many more from the dashboard. But centrally we can see the all firewall activities. Okay, so I will also explain dashboard on greatly. Then routing. So router can do routing as well as firewall, same as FortiGate also can do routing. Okay, so we can have a static routing. We can have a static default routing. So static routing and default routing what? So we can know, we can also learn from CCNA, right? What is static route, what is default route. But on FortiGate, we'll also configure static route and default route. Also, we'll configure the dynamic route. Okay. So what are the dynamic routing? I will explain. So dynamic routing like RIP, and also OSPF and BGP. We'll configure these three types of dynamic routing on FortiGate. Okay, so similarly like a router. Okay, so on routing part we will configure that. So another important thing on interface. So there are two types of interface. Okay, one is our virtual interface, and we also know about the physical interface. Okay, so physical interface is what? So something, this is a firewall, this is gig 0x1, this is gig 0x2. So these two are the physical interface. Okay, virtual or logical interface is what? Can anyone say what is virtual or logical interface? Okay.
So, like virtual interface is like when we create a VLAN.
Yeah. And one more. So VLAN interface, not create a VLAN. VLAN interface is then loopback, then port channel. Okay, so these are all virtual interface or logical interface. Okay, so we have also this type of interface we need to configure on FortiGate as well as the physical interface. Also, we have the sub interface. Sub interface is also logical, right? Not So main interface is this one. This is physical, and these are logical interface. Then on network address translation part. So what is, it is a very important part. Okay. So on CCNA, we have also learned the net. So we have on CCNA, we have learned, we have three types of net: static net, then we have the dynamic net, and PET. Okay. So static net is one-to-one mapping. Dynamic net, some addresses. Okay, suppose inside we have the subnet, and the subnet something like 192.168.10.0/24. This is your internet subnet, and it should be translated to outside a pool of address, not only single IP. Pool of address. Okay, pool of address. Something like 103.10.10.10 to 20. Okay, so what is the main problem here? Inside we have 254 IP, and on the outside, on the pool, we have only 10 or 11 IP. So first 11 IP will be translated to this IP, but when the IP 12 needs to be translated, it can't. Okay, so this is the main problem of dynamic net. Hence come the PAT, port address translation. We can also call something like dynamic PAT. Dynamic PAT is what? So the subnet, the inside subnet will be translated to outside only single IP. Okay, and on behind of single IP, dynamically port is generated. Okay, to separation. So I will discuss everything, no problem. But in FortiGate, the two types of net. One is source net, and another is destination net. But in FortiGate, we have two types of net: source net and destination net. Source net almost similar to PAT. That means source address will be translated to the public IP. Okay. A destination net is similar to static net. Similar to. Okay. And also source net can be configured either two-way: the firewall policy net, and central net. Same thing for destination net. It can also be configured either in firewall policy net or central net. So I will describe everything on our class. So this is our net section. I will describe about the source net and destination net, and I will show you the lab how to configure it, and I will give a vivid description, everything. Okay. Then next part is firewall policy. Okay, so on traditional firewall, we configure ACL, right? Suppose on CCNA, we have done the ACL, right? ACL on router. Okay, so ACL, we called it the policy. In the firewall. So on a next generation firewall, we'll call, or ASA firewall, we call it the policy. Okay, but for router, we have learned about the ACL. So these are both are similar. So on routing ACL, it works based on layer 3 and layer 4. So layer 3 is nothing but source IP and destination IP. Layer 4 is based on source and destination port. Okay. So if we have a router or firewall, anyone or firewall. So first consider router, and we have this is our inside PC, and this is our outside server. Okay, this is our cloud. This is suppose google.com. Okay, google.com. Okay, so for suppose this is a router, we consider this is a router. So this is it has a IP address. Suppose 10.1.1.1. This has an IP address 8.8.8.8, 8.8, and the service, suppose Google service. So suppose it is a HTTP or HTTPS service or HTTPS service, HTTPS. So this is basically the part of TCP. Okay, so our source IP will be the 10.1.1.1. Destination IP will be the 8.8.8.8, and source port will be any. Destination port will be suppose HTTP or HTTPS. Destination port suppose 80 or 443. Okay. Now on ACL, if we configure on ACL part, if we configure ACL based on source and destination port, source IP, destination IP, source port, and destination port. Suppose something like extended ACL, right? Extended ACL, we have learned about that. And then this can browse everything from the Google. Okay. So this is the task of policies. This is the task of policy. So similar to routing, similar to router, we can do policy or access ACL on firewall. Both are similar. Okay, no need to be worried. Something like routing, netting, policies or ACL, almost similar to router. But difference is here. Web filtering. Okay, suppose this is a Google server, or this can be a Facebook, or any other website. Suppose if I permit with the ACL, if I create an extended ACL and permit this rule, allow this rule, so this user can browse everything from the outside, right? Browse everything from the outside. So what is the problem here? Of course, it has the problem. Okay, what is the problem? Suppose on the URL, on the website, we can have the different application, right? On the outside, we have the different application like Facebook application, Google application, and many more. Number one, we have different application, such as Facebook application, Google application, or different URL. Number two, on this URL, when this user will browse something, so there can have the possibility to access the malware, right? Malware and virus. So on router, we cannot filter the malware or virus. So if the website is malware affected or virus affected, and the user is browse on that website, so there have the possibility the user is browsing the malware or virus. So there are no control on router how to filter the antivirus, okay, virus, etc., and many more threats. So this is the problem. Number one, virus and malware can affect it through a network. Again, we cannot control about URL, right? URL. So on the public side, we have many bad URL, threat URL, have million URL. Okay, some are bad social website, such as pornography, gambling. So these are the bad website. So if we allow this to port, then user can browse any website. You cannot control on the URL, right? So traditional firewall can control, but next generation firewall, we have the option to control our URL. We have the option how to how to control the virus and or how to prevent virus or malware from the outside. This is the next generation firewall capability. Again, application control. We also do not have application control on traditional router or traditional ASA firewall. Okay, but next generation firewall we also have. So what is application? So application like Facebook is an application, also URL, and Google is an application. Google is an also application. We have also micro application. Okay, I will discuss everything in the class. So what is micro application? Suppose Google is the mother application or main application, and also under the Google we have the Google Map, we have the Google Calendar, we have the Google everything and many more. Okay, so these are called the micro application. Okay, so you cannot control the micro application with the traditional firewall, but on the next generation firewall like Palo Alto, FortiGate, we have the option how to control the application and micro application. Okay, and also we have the file filtering or file control. Suppose I do not want to I do not want for some users who can download the PDF file, okay, or doc file or Word file. Okay, I can prevent it. So we can also control the file, okay, using the next generation firewall. So as well as any next generation firewall can do. Also, the FortiGate firewall can also do this. So this is the best. This is actually for these characteristics, the next generation firewall is widely used, right? The traditional fire has goes down. Okay, not used nowadays. So every organization is using the next generation firewall. So I will explain everything about next generation firewall in our class. Then these options: firewall authentication. So it's very important. Also, we will configure the firewall authentication. So what is firewall authentication? So give me a simple example. Suppose this is a firewall. Okay, firewall. So this is the inside user. Suppose username is Ashish. Okay, and IP address is 1.1.1. And firewall, this is the firewall. It can generate IP via DHCP. Okay, and this is outside. Outside we have a server. Now, as everything is permitted for this user, so user can access to any website. Suppose this server. Okay, suppose this server. Now, your manager or your CEO or CTO asked you for log for this user. What traffic he initiated for the last 2 days or last 1 hour, or the traffic this user generate. So firewall automatically log generate, uses log, but okay. So but firewall will generate log based on IP. So as this is you are configuring DHCP, so IP can be changed. So you cannot capture the right user, right? Hence the term firewall authentication. Okay, so in the inbox inside the firewall we can configure user, so at most 5 or 6 or 10, not more than that. Okay, actually we use the another suppose this is a switch, we will use the another device like Cisco ICE or LDAP server. LDAP means the Cisco Windows AD server. So ICE, we have the Radius, we have the TechX Plus. So what are they? These are actually the you can say the user controller or user repository. Okay, so LDAP or AD, Active Directory Server, is like the user repository. So suppose I am installing Windows AD server here, and I will connect it in my LAN, inside LAN, and the switch. Also, I will sync to this AD server with the firewall. And on the AD, I will create the user and group-based policy. Okay, group-based policy. Okay, and now what is the benefit? Now, when the user, so we will create the user policy, right? User and group policy. So when the user Ashish, okay, here is user Ashish, and also this is the IP address. When this user wants to access to the outside server, outside any service, then firewall can now log generate based on username, because user is synchronized with the firewall by ID server, also the IP. Now you can capture the right user, right? So hence the firewall authentication. There are two types of authentication. Locally, too much user cannot be configured. That's why we'll use the AD server or LF server. We will use the ICE or any radius server or TechX server we can use. Okay, so I will explain. I will also do a lab on it. Okay, don't worry. Then layer 2 firewall. So firewall can be worked best. So suppose FortiGate firewall works in two modes: NAT mode, and also a transparent mode. Okay, so NAT mode is nothing but layer 3 or routed mode. Other firewall, we call it the routed mode. But in Fortinet, we call it the NAT mode. But NAT mode is similar to layer 3 or routed mode. And transparent mode is similar to layer 2. Transparent mode is similar to layer 2. Okay. So please mute. Okay. Otherwise, a lot of sound is coming. So layer 2 mode. Firewall can be used either layer 3 or routed mode or layer 2 mode. So where we need to use it, suppose this is a layer 3 mode. By default, 95% we are use the layer 3 mode. When we have the different network, then we will use the layer 3. But when we have the same network, but we need the feature of next generation firewall, then we can use the firewall as a layer 2. Suppose if this is the layer 2, these one actually same network. Hence it is called the layer 2. But this layer 2 mode, it also next generation feature is worked. Okay, no problem. But this is your layer 2 interface. No, this is your layer 3. You can assign IP. This is layer 2. We will not assign IP like a switch. But here we can enable the feature all the next generation firewall. Where basically it can be used. Suppose you have a network. Okay, so this is your switch. This is your firewall or router, not firewall. This is a router, and here is your network. So this is your network, and now your organization need to be establish a new firewall because your organization is not any firewall. Okay, so we have router and switch only, but your management decided to give you a firewall. Now you have to use it. But on that router, you have configured the MPLS, you have configured the BGP, and many more. So you have bought a new firewall and you want to deploy here. When you want to use it as a NAT mode or layer 3 mode, so you need to assign IP here, also here. Okay, because this is a NAT mode, and also your routing configuration will be changed. MPLS configuration will be changed, routing configuration will be changed. You need to do routing, but you don't want that. You don't want so that any configuration on router will be changed or here will be changed. You will just push or set the firewall here without changing any configuration of the router. So you should be used the firewall as a layer 2 mode or transparent mode. So now this should be the layer 2. So you don't need any routing, you don't need any IP here, but it can do the filter, any filtering. Okay, you can filter what is next generation firewall feature. You can just scan your filter. But router already you have configured ACL, right? ACL is here, but you can filter your traffic, either web filtering, application control, antivirus, etc. Many more. All next generation feature you can apply here. So it is rarely used. Okay? But I will show you where it is used. Then logging and monitoring. So logging and monitoring is very important because the firewall will generate the log, and you need to identify who is what is the outside threat, who is the user, who and this user is accessed on which type of website. Okay, so outside from which IP you are getting the DOS attack. Okay, so many more. So you need regular logging and monitoring. Okay, so you need to check the log to verify which traffic for which one, and also monitoring. This is the regular task. But on firewall, you have almost 7 days log. Okay, but if you need more than 7 days, then you need to use the log server, any log server. It can be PRTG, it can be any syslog server, and many more. Okay, so this is logging and monitoring. And then VPN. So on CCNA we have on the IPsec VPN, right? IPsec VPN, site-to-site VPN. But here we will configure on Fortinet. We will configure 2 types of VPN. One is site-to-site VPN, but in 2 ways. Site-to-site VPN will be configured either route-based VPN. I will show you 2 different labs. One is route-based VPN. Another is site-to-site VPN with policy-based, route-based and policy-based. So I will show you the both option. Okay, IPsec VPN. So I will explain also many more things. I will have extra class for IPsec VPN theoretical part. Then I will move per lab, and almost I have 2 labs. So, okay. So one is route-based VPN, another is policy-based VPN. Okay. So site-to-site VPN basically to connect 2 sites. So this is your headquarters, and this is your branch office. So you can have multiple branch office. So you have the LAN here, you have the LAN option. Also you have the LAN option. So we need to connect. So this is your public network. This is your public network. This is in India. This is in Bangladesh. Okay. So we can have another location. This is in Africa. Okay, many more location, but the same company. So this is the LAN. Here is the LAN. This is also the LAN. This is also the LAN. So we need to communicate with each LAN in secure way. But this is a public network, right? So on public network, we can't communicate securely because public network, there are many hackers. So your data, your configurable, your trusted data will be published. So what can we do? We can do the tunnel, okay, via IPsec protocol. Okay, and using the tunnel, if we send information, if we communicate from LAN to LAN, then there will be no chance to flash your data or information. Okay, so this is actually the site-to-site VPN. So I will show you this lab site-to-site, and I will also include site-to-multi-site, site-to-multi-site also. Another lab will be. So 3 lab for IPsec. One is route-based, another is policy-based, and another one is site-to-multi-site. I will show you everything. Then SSL VPN. So why SSL VPN is required? So basically, normally we call it the remote access VPN. So remote access VPN is what? Suppose this is your firewall, and this is your LAN network. You have the servers, you have the multiple resources here, and this is the internet. Okay, so these are your mobile user. So you can locate it either India, you can locate it BD, you can locate it Australia, you can locate it Africa, anywhere. So this is suppose USA. Okay, now via internet you need to connect with your local net. So suppose you are a remote user or client user, or you can be the part of office. So you need the home office. You need to do the home office. Okay. So you are in remote distance. So how can you do the home office? So if I have the option so that you can connect via the internet with the firewall in secure way, and then you can access to your full of network. At the end, it seems to you that you are in the office. So this type of tunnel, we can configure either SSL protocol or IPsec protocol. Okay. So sometimes some people, it's called also the SSL VPN, because SSL protocol is used for these one. Okay. But we can also call it the remote access VPN, not site to site. Remote access VPN. So I will also do a lab on it. Okay. Then another important thing here is on the failover or HA, high availability. Suppose this is your firewall and this is your outside, this is your inside. Inside you have the server, multiple server. Outside, suppose this is your Facebook server. Okay, you can have mail server and many more. This is your outside zone. Here the user need to access the Facebook, access the mail server. Okay, but this is your firewall, only one firewall. What is the problem here? If the firewall goes down, then there will be no communication. You cannot communicate with the outside. They cannot communicate with the inside. So to solve this problem, we can take another firewall. And configured as a high available, or we can also call the failover mechanism. So there are two options: active passive, another is active active. What is active passive? Suppose if I configure this firewall is active, this one is passive. We can also call it a standby. All the traffic will pass through the active firewall. Okay. When active firewall is down, then passive will be active, and then all the traffic will pass through the passive firewall. This is your active passive scenario. And we can also configure as active active. What is active active? Suppose if we configure this one is active, then both the firewall will send the traffic. If one is fail, if one is down, then all traffic will pass the secondary active device. Okay. So this is the active scenario. So I will do a lab on both options, either active passive, either active active, and also give a private description. Okay, full description, full theoretical as well as lab. So on every part we will do lab. Okay. Nothing to be worried. Also use theoretical, and I will also share the PDF book on it, on the firewall. Okay. Now another part is FortiGate Manager. So what is FortiGate Manager? Suppose in your organization you have two firewall, or you can have the 5 firewall on different area, but on all are same company. Okay, so to configure something on any firewall, we need to access directly on the firewall, right? Suppose I need to change on this firewall something, or this firewall, but I need to enter this firewall individually, not at the same time. Okay, suppose on Cisco FTD, Firepower Threat Defense, we can configure on particular box, or we can configure via FMC. So FMC is Firepower Management Center. That means your all configuration and monitoring can be performed from the FMC. So if I have the FTD, multiple FTD, then all the FTD will be registered through the FMC, and now you can configure or control everything from the central dashboard. Same thing here. On FortiGate, we call it the FortiManager. FortiManager. On Cisco, we call it the Firewall Management Center. Here we call the FortiManager. FortiManager will give you the central dashboard, and from the dashboard, we can configure or control everything. So I will also describe on that section. Okay, maybe say 5 to 6 classes will be on FortiManager, and here 15 classes. Okay, total 20 classes will be take. So this is all about. And now, do you have any question, please?
Okay, Ashish, this is
Yeah.
Said. For NSE 5,